Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take a stack of specialized sources and, well, we pull out the insights you need to get up to speed fast. Today, we're digging into the world of capital campaigns for nonprofits.
Right.
Our mission is to really understand the structure, the psychology, and all the non-negotiable planning that goes into these massive fundraising drives.
We're talking about the money for new buildings, for land, for that huge piece of equipment that can just, transform what an organization can do.
And I think we have to say right from the start, this isn't random.
Oh, not at all. Campaign success is never an accident. It's all about a systematic machine. A capital campaign, if you want the technical definition, is just an intense, organized effort over a set time looking for money for what accountants call capital, fixed assets.
But that's where we hit this really critical historical flaw, isn't it? The whole idea of the double ask.
That is the one insight that changed everything. Okay, let's paint a picture.
Yeah.
Think about a successful hospital donor, someone who faithfully gives, say, $10,000 a year to the annual fund. That money supports immediate patient care.
Keeps the lights on.
Exactly. Then the hospital launches its huge $50 million expansion campaign, and they go to that same donor for a separate pledge.
For the capital project.
For the capital project. $100,000 maybe, payable over 5 years. So that's $20,000 a year.
A big step up.
A big step up.
Yeah.
And the donor says yes. They're happy to do it. But then, maybe a month later, that annual fund appeal letter lands in their mailbox.
Asking for the usual 10 grand.
Yep. And the donor, pretty reasonably, thinks, hang on a second. I just committed $20,000 a year for the new wing. That was a big stretch for me.
And now you want another 10,000 on top of that.
Exactly. And what happens is that donor often scales back that annual gift or, cuts it entirely. A campaign that is purely for capital ends up cannibalizing the funds for day-to-day operations.
So what's the modern solution?
It's what we call a combined ask. The sophisticated campaigns today, they almost always incorporate a request that covers both. It covers the short-term annual needs and the long-term capital goal all at once.
That just smooths out the whole relationship.
It prevents that donor fatigue.
Okay, so let's unpack that. If the goal is this massive amount of funding, how do you go from a big idea to an actual plan?
Well, first you have to know what a plan is. And our sources draw a really sharp line here. A fundraising plan is not the same as a campaign plan.
How so?
A fundraising plan, that might just focus on one method, like running a direct mail program or managing a single event. But a campaign plan is the master strategy. It organizes multiple methods all at once for a specific period to hit a major goal.
So let's say a university wants to raise $5 million for a new chemistry scholarship.
Right.
The campaign plan would coordinate everything? The big asks to wealthy alumni, the grant proposals to foundations, maybe even a smaller annual dinner event.
Exactly. It all converges under one banner. And that convergence usually happens across 3 distinct phases: planning, quiet, and public.
The planning phase sounds technical, but it's really more about being prepared, isn't it?
It is. It's existential.
Yeah.
You're confirming your goals, sure, but you're also testing if the community will even support this vision. And you absolutely must have your board 100% behind you before you move an inch.
Then you get to the quiet phase, and
no.
this is where the money actually starts to come in.
This is the heavy lifting. And the philosophy is top-down, inside-out.
Meaning you start with the people closest to the organization.
Your board, your top staff, your biggest volunteers. You go to them first, and you solicit the biggest potential gifts first. You work from the inside of your network out.
Okay, but let me challenge that for a second. Isn't that risky? What if your insiders don't step up? Doesn't that kill the whole thing before it starts?
It is a risk.
Yeah.
A huge one. But it's a necessary one. Think about it. If the people who govern the organization, your most committed insiders, aren't willing to lead the charge,
then no outside donor is going to believe in the project.
Of course not. Their participation is the social proof you need. It's the first domino.
And what's the goal for this phase? What's the magic number?
You want to secure at least 40%, but ideally 60% of the total goal during this quiet phase.
60% before you even announce it publicly.
Yes, because that leads you right into the public phase, which is all about psychology.
It's pure behavioral science, isn't it?
It is. When you finally go public and you announce, we're trying to raise $50 million, and by the way, we already have $30 million, the rest of it looks
doable. Easy, almost.
achievable.
Yeah.
And it's even more powerful if you can announce the names of the influential people and companies who gave those quiet phase gifts. Humans respond to that social momentum. If the leaders are in, everyone else wants to follow.
Which raises a big question. What's the absolute first step you have to take before any of this?
The feasibility study.
The ultimate litmus test.
It is. And it's not just a survey. It's a systematic sampling of people who could actually make influential gifts. And you're trying to answer two things. One, can we hit the revenue goal? And two, is our case for support truly compelling?
And a good study, it shouldn't just be designed to validate the board's idea, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It'd have to be designed to challenge it, to potentially even kill the idea if the support just isn't there. A failed campaign can stain a nonprofit for years. You have to test the waters ruthlessly.
Which is probably why the sources so heavily endorse getting outside help, the consultant advantage.
It's invaluable. Look, your in-house development director might run one of these campaigns every 10 years. A good consultant advises, what, 5 of them in a single year?
So they bring that immediate, up-to-date experience.
That and an objective, non-emotional perspective. They can tell the board a hard truth that maybe an employee would hesitate to say.
But they're expensive. What's the trade-off for an organization worried about overhead?
You measure the cost against the risk. The cost of a failed campaign, in terms of reputation and lost donors, is so much greater than the cost of hiring an expert to make sure you get it right.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, the psychology of setting goals. Campaigns aren't just about hitting a number. They're designed to change a donor's philanthropic set point.
That's the real long-term prize. Think about a loyal college grad who's been giving $50 a year for 20 years. They can afford more, but $50 is their set point. It's their habit.
Right.
The campaign uses the urgency of the need to push that donor to pledge, say, $500 over 5 years. So now they have to give $100 annually.
Double their usual gift.
And once they commit to that higher level, they're far more likely to just stay at that $100 level even after the campaign is over. You've reset their baseline.
And to focus that whole effort, you need good research. The CIA formula.
Capacity, interest, and access. You have to qualify your potential donors. Do they have the capacity to make the gift? Do they have a demonstrated interest in your mission? And critically, do you have access to them to actually make the ask?
And that access piece is so key. Technology can tell you someone is wealthy.
Sure.
But if you don't have a personal, trusted connection to get in the room with them, they aren't really a viable prospect for a major gift.
That's right. And all that intel, it feeds directly into your case for support.
Yeah.
Which is not a simple brochure.
No, it's the core document, the why.
The why. Why is this mission essential?
Yeah.
Why is our organization the one to do it? And what exactly do we need in terms of programs, materials, and money? It tells stories of impact. It shows a donor what their money will build, not just what it will buy.
Okay, let's shift to strategy, because campaigns don't raise money, strategies do. And I love the bowling ball analogy.
It's a great one. Picture your campaign goal as a big empty barrel. If you try to fill it with marbles, millions of tiny gifts, it takes forever.
You lose momentum.
You do. So the smart way to fill the barrel is to put the biggest, heaviest things in first. The bowling balls. Those are your major gifts from the quiet phase.
Then you fill in the gaps with botch balls.
Your mid-level gifts.
Yeah.
And then, at the very end, the marbles and the tiny ball bearings fill in every last little space. But the focus, always, is on securing those bowling balls first.
And the main tool for that is the multi-year pledge.
It's a huge psychological anchor. It lets a donor feel like they're making this significant, lasting statement today, even if they pay it off over 3 or 5 years. They get that immediate recognition and satisfaction.
And monetarily, they almost always pledge more than they would have if you just asked them for an annual gift each year.
They do. They often double their giving just to get that pledge recognition. It becomes a win-win.
Timing is also crucial. Which brings us to events.
Right, which are highly choreographed. You really see 3 main types.
First, you have the small, intimate events during the quiet phase. Little dinner parties, maybe.
Exactly. Strictly for educating and getting pledges from your top donors before the public even knows a campaign is happening.
Then, second, the big campaign pickoff. The start of the public phase.
And the whole trick there is that you use the kickoff to announce you've already raised 40 to 60% of the goal. It's a celebration of momentum designed to create urgency for everyone else.
And then finally, the victory lap. The campaign completion celebration.
To announce you did it and encourage that last little bit of mop-up giving.
So once you're fully public, you're in that cleanup phase.
Right. This is about efficient fundraising to reach everyone who wasn't asked for a bowling ball. You're using online appeals, which are great for making sure everyone in your database gets asked.
Yeah.
You never want someone to say, I would have given, but nobody asked me.
And you combine that with traditional fundraising letters, physical mail.
Which, in a world of overflowing inboxes, can actually stand out more. And the research is clear. When you combine traditional mail with online appeals, you do better than with either one alone.
And to create that final push of urgency, you use matching gift drives.
It's Behavioral Economics 101. Everyone loves a bargain. A major donor says, I'll match every dollar you raise up to $100,000 this month.
And giving just accelerates like crazy.
It does. And you should always be leveraging corporate matching gift programs, too. It's free money.
So if we step all the way back, the big lesson here is that a capital campaign isn't just a fundraiser. It's a high-stakes system. It leverages structure and human psychology to do something monumental.
It really does. And when it's done right, it boosts funds, it elevates your reputation, and it fundamentally changes your ability to achieve your mission.
But there's a big warning at the end of all this.
A critical one. Capital campaigns should never be used to try and kickstart a fundraising program that doesn't exist.
Yes.
This is a tool for established nonprofits that are already successful and are now ready for a major leap forward.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to think about. If a campaign's greatest success is permanently changing a donor's philanthropic set point to a higher level, what systems need to be in place after the campaign is over to make sure that new, higher set point actually sticks? To make sure that donor doesn't just drift back to their old habits?